Welcome, everyone, to today's Town of Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The date is January 22nd, 2026. I will ask our clerk to read a message from the Commonwealth's governor, please.
Okay, I'm going to be reading the remote participation meeting procedure for the ZBA meeting, January 22nd, 2026. Please note, this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, including the use of AI note-taking apps, please notify the chair. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A, Section 20, until June 30, 2027, this meeting of the Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 382-312-019 pound, the pound sign, or the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV Xfinity Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. And we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue, hearing, or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair.
The procedure that we follow is as follows. The application will be read by the lady to my right. This is Sarah B. Clark. She's the PPO for the town. That is the principal permitting officer. Following that, we'll have a presentation either by the applicant or the applicant's representative. Then we would ask for any of those in favor who wish to join the meeting to indicate they wish to. After that, I would read any and all correspondence. Following that, we'd ask for anyone who wishes to speak either against or has a question about the application to join the meeting. Following that, there could possibly be some rebuttal. Then we would go on to questions from the board, and when we're done with that, we would close the hearing and go into a deliberation. Votes in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts on Zoning Board of Appeals. To be successful, you need to have a supermajority of the votes. That means 5 votes. You need 4. 3 doesn't do it. Voting today, we have Paul, Randy, Ginny, myself, and Dave Veach. Although I think, Mr. Veach, you're recusing on one.
I'm recusing on Main Street.
Okay.
I'm recusing on one on Main Street.
Okay, then Ed, you would vote on that on the Main Street. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, at the end of the meeting, we would close it, have a vote, note the time, and go on our merry way. So, we have to begin with a request on oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, Sarah's reminding me we have some minutes to approve. So we have the minutes from December 10th.
The board needs to authorize this form of meeting.
Correct. Thank you. So we need to approve this format of meeting. We all get to vote. Lee?
Lee Hovey, I approve this form of meeting.
Stephen D. DeBoer, and I approve.
Virginia Fenwick, I approve.
David S. Nixon, I approve.
Randy Potash, I approve.
Paul C. Semple, I approve.
Ed Acton, I approve.
And David H. Veach, I approve.
That's it. That's unanimous. Okay. Now we'll go on to minutes. December 10th. Randy.
Yeah, so I move to accept the minutes with, I do have one edit. This is for 12/18. No, I recused myself on 12/18. I'm sorry, these are the minutes from December 10th. I don't know why I had that note there. The amendment that I need to make is that Virginia Fenwick voted no on the project. And that, yeah. Anybody object to that?
No, I think that's correct.
Yeah, so it had her as voting yes. Mr. Nixon did vote no, and the balance of us voted yes, but Virginia Fenwick was included in the yes, but she was a no. So, subject to that amendment, I move to approve the minutes unless somebody else has.
Okay. Paul?
I vote yes.
Well, you have to second.
Second the motion.
And vote yes?
And vote yes.
Okay. Dave?
I'm lost now. No, Dave Veach votes yes.
Randy?
Randy votes yes.
Jenny?
Ginny votes yes.
And I vote yes. Okay. Next one?
Do we have any other minutes? Oh, the 18th, I have to recuse myself from that, but I imagine that I move to approve the minutes unless anybody else has to make any other changes.
I'll move to approve and second.
Okay.
Dave Veach votes yes.
Paul votes yes.
I vote yes.
Ginny votes yes.
And who else was voting that day?
Yeah, I wasn't there that day.
Steve DeBoer was voting.
Oh, yes.
Then in that case, I vote yes.
Okay. All right. So that's unanimous. Okay, very good. All right, let's go on now. We have a request about, to begin with, application 25-126, 60 Howes Lane. Mr. Riley.
Application number 25-126, Elizabeth DeBias, care of William F. Riley Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 60 Howes Lane, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 7B, Block 52, Lot S25. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling. The existing dwelling is nonconforming in that it is located 13.2 feet from the northeasterly abutter where a 15-foot setback is required. The proposed dwelling will comply with road and abutter setback requirements. The existing building coverage is 1,459 square feet, 15.5%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,743 square feet, 18.5%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 9,540 square feet, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw.
Mr. Riley.
Good afternoon. Before I start, I have to tell you, I have to wrap my head around the revised seating arrangement, where the left has gone right and the right has gone left. You're still all beautiful people, which is a wonderful thing, but I'm just confused.
Well, I suggest you write a letter to the Board of Selectmen and see if they agree with you that it needs to be changed again. Go ahead, Mr. Riley.
Well, thank you very much. The reason we need a continuance is that the applicants have decided to change a portion of the design that's going to require a re-advertisement. And we've consulted with Sarah, and our plan is to file the revised plans by the 30th, and Sarah has indicated that there would be enough time, advertising time, so we could be heard on the 26th of February. So we would ask for a continuance to the 26th of February.
Do any members have questions of Mr. Riley about this request? Okay, Randy?
I move to continue the hearing until February 22nd? 26th, I'm sorry, 26th.
Okay. Paul?
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
And I'll vote yes.
And you vote yes, Dave?
Dave Veach votes yes.
Randy?
Yes,
Ginny, yes.
I vote yes, that's a unanimous decision. Okay, Sarah? Let me check that off. Let's go to 25-063, please.
Application number 25-063, Monomoy Rips LLC, care of William F. Riley Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 53 Little Beach Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 16A, Block 26, Lot H52. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling. The existing dwelling is nonconforming, and that it is located 32.1 feet from Little Beach Road and entirely within the Coastal Conservancy District, floodplain elevation 13. The proposed dwelling will be nonconforming, in that it will be located 15.2 feet from Little Beach Road, where a 40-foot setback is required, and entirely within the Coastal Conservancy District, where a 50-foot setback is required. Also proposed is the installation of 2 new driveways. The existing building coverage is 1,419 square feet, and the proposed building coverage is 2,773 square feet, where 2,800 square feet is the maximum allowed. The lot is nonconforming in that it contains 0 square feet of buildable upland, where 20,000 square feet is required, and contains 32,600 square feet of land area, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 6 and 9, and Sections 5B and 8D2B of the Protective Bylaw. This was continued from August 14th and October 25th, 2025.
Good afternoon, Bill Riley on behalf of Monomoy Rips LLC, which is Rod and Terry Henkels, who are, Rod's present online. This design was done by Aaron Levin, who is with me here today. And I'd like to ask Aaron to go through the changes they've made. As you may recall, this is we're hoping that the third time is the charm. We've paid close attention to the comments of the board from our last meeting, and there have been significant further reductions in the size of the proposed structure. So I'd ask Aaron to explain the current design. Aaron?
Sure. At the last hearing, some of the comments we heard from you had to do with the overall lot coverage, as well as the design of the house that included a flat roof connector connecting 2 separate gables. So we have removed that flat roof piece, and the 2 gables now merged together. Since our original submission in August, we have reduced the ridge height 8.5 inches. We've reduced the footprint 776 square feet, and we've reduced the overall width of the house as viewed from the street 14 feet 2 inches.
All right, so as you can, one of the things I passed out was the picture we submitted at the last meeting showing the previous design, so that you'll be able to compare it to the current design, which is up on the board. In any event, so the Henkels have made a real effort to pay attention to the concerns of the board, and they've reduced the building coverage, they've reduced the gross floor area. And I do have to say, with regard to the gross floor area, we've attached a sheet, which we do usually. Which went somewhere. We submitted a plan that showed the gross floor area is 3,287 square feet. And that did not include the floor area of a screened-in porch. Aaron felt, and I agree with Aaron, that because the walls are screens and not house walls, that this was not an area that could be converted to a living area. Sarah and I had a lengthy discussion about the definition of gross floor area in your rules and regulations. And it refers to floor area that can be converted to living area within the building envelope. I believe that, you know, people would think of the building envelope as the walls of the building. So if you have a screened porch with no exterior wall, that is not within the building envelope. Now, I mean, it's basically 400 square feet of the gross floor area. So when you're considering this design in your deliberations, I just hope you keep in mind that we think the gross floor area is 3,287 square feet, and Sarah's number, which I don't have right in front of me, is about an additional 400 square feet. So we think that our gross floor area is, as I say, is less than 3,300 square feet. I can run through the criteria. So adequacy of the size of the site in terms of the size for the proposed use. We do still have a significant increase in building coverage from 1,379 to 1,997 square feet. That represents a 300 square foot reduction from our previous design, and well over 1,000 square feet reduction from our earliest design. But the lot at 53 Beach Road has 32,600 square feet, and so we represent about 6% building coverage. So we think that the size of the site is adequate for the proposed use. Compatibility of the size of the proposed structure with neighboring properties. So again, we have an attached sheet that shows our proposed gross floor area and the gross floor areas of other homes on Little Beach. And so we're still larger than most, but I think that considering the size of the lot and its location, that the size of the building is compatible, particularly when you look at the design. Most of the other houses are jammed onto very small lots. And we have a 32,000 square foot lot. So I think it's fair to allow the property owner to use a little bit more of the lot than the folks who are jammed in, whose percentages are generally way above 15% allowed in our bylaw. So would ask you to keep that in mind while considering whether this is compatible with our neighboring properties. The extent of the proposed increase in the nonconforming nature of the structure or use. So we're still increasing the living space on a nonconforming building, so that would be an increase in the nonconforming nature. Plus we're encroaching a little closer on the frontage, the front setback of the street, so both those things would be an increase in nonconforming nature. Suitability of the site, including but not limited to impact on neighboring properties, on the natural environment, including slopes, vegetation, wetlands, groundwater, water bodies, and stormwater runoff. We do have an adjacent wetland across Little Beach Road from the location. We do not believe that, because the ground is level between our property and that there's significant chance of runoff. But our design has been discussed with the Conservation Commission, and because we're changing the design, we'll have to go back to them. But they have signed off on the larger design, and we think with a smaller design, there's even less chance of us impacting that wetland. And we don't believe there's any impact on groundwater, water bodies, or stormwater runoff. impact of scale, siting, and mass on the neighborhood visual character, including views, vistas, and streetscapes. So, we understood the concerns of the board members with the last design, where it could be perceived that there were like two separate buildings kind of attached to each other. Now, so what Erin has done with her design is reduce it so that it is much more similar to a standard cape design, using dormers for headroom on the second floor. So we think that the current design is a positive impact on the views and vistas and the streetscape, and certainly not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. Compatibility of the proposed use with neighboring uses. This is a single-family residence, and all the homes down there are single-family residences, with the exception of the Starfish condominiums, which are our neighbor to the south. Compatibility to proposed use, as I said, we're all single-family except the condominium. Method of sewage disposal, we're proposing a brand-new septic system with a nitrogen-reducing component. So we believe that represents an improvement. We feel there's no impact on traffic flow and safety. In effect, I know you've been to the site, Little Beach Road is a dead end at this location due to nature taking over the balance of the road as you move south. We don't believe that any change in noise and litter. All utilities and other public services are adequate. 11 and 12. 11 is not applicable, although there is a lateral expansion under 12. Most of it is in an existing lawn area, and the applicant will be removing an existing retaining wall that will increase the pervious area of the lot. And the proposed dwelling is less than 10%, although it's actually less than 8% of the proposed lot. So we think that this proposal is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood and responds, we think, directly to the concerns previously raised by this board. That'll be our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate you'd like to join the meeting. I don't see anyone. So I'll read the correspondence. It's very limited. We have a note from Judith Giorgio. She's the health agent for the town of Chatham. She writes on 121, I've reviewed the plan, demo, and rebuild. The plan proposes a shared septic IA system for the dwellings. Which would be this one and the one that we approved not so long ago. The Board of Health approved this for the shared system and variances at their meeting on January 12th, 2026. Shared systems require covenant documents and financial assurances that the systems will be maintained by the owners. The dwelling at 53 Little Beach was approved for 3 bedrooms. Then we have a note from Christine McCarthy. There's an outstanding real estate tax for 53, and we bring this to the attention.
I think we can cover the $38.
We don't care how much.
I understand.
That's right. If you're in arrears, you're in arrears. Okay, and I think that takes care of that. And incidentally, it was really 88.80, but I know.
Right. So I have a favor to ask, too. Since we've been dealing with this property for quite some time prior to this owner, instead of just questions, if you could give me your concerns as well so we can try to deal with them, I'd really appreciate it.
Okay, so now, is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak against this application or has a specific question? If so, please indicate that you'd like to join the meeting. Gentleman in the back.
For the record, Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. My question is what is the total lot coverage now? Because that's always a little confusing to me, because it says 27 on the, on the,
1997. 1997.
and that doesn't include the 400 square feet of the enclosed deck?
It does include the screen porch.
Because there's a roof over the screen porch.
So that's included in the lot coverage? So this project seems to be moving in the right direction, but it's still in a flood zone. Kind of increasing the imprint, I think is bad. And something I just would like the owner to know is that we did pass the year-round tax exemptions. And so the summer residences are going to go up a little bit. And then maybe if you would reconsider and keep it a historical building, which in my opinion, many people in this town think it is, because it was built before World War II, you might save some money. And if you like money, maybe you should keep it historic. Thanks.
Anyone else like to join the meeting with either an objection or a question? Seeing none, Mr. Riley, do you want to rebut Mr. Phillips?
Well, I don't think the building was built before World War II, but other than that, in terms of the future, this building is going to be built in compliance with all the FEMA regulations. That's why it's being elevated. Our building code requires the first floor to be above the floodplain elevation, which is elevation 15 in this location. So, and the purpose of that under FEMA, of course, is to prevent damage to the building in a storm event. So having in mind some of the pictures we've seen from Florida after the last hurricanes down there, the buildings that were elevated survived without difficulty, and the buildings that weren't elevated were destroyed. So I think that in addition to being an attractive building, it's going to reduce the possibility of storm damage for this property. So we think that this is an improvement, so.
Okay, thank you. We'll now have questions from the board, and I'm a counterclockwise guy today, so let's start with Steve.
So we're in questions.
We are.
Yeah, okay. Is there any way of you telling how the finished ridge of this proposal compares to the finished ridge of the house at 47 that's being proposed?
Well, we had that.
Yep.
It's lower.
This one's lower than 47?
No, 47 is lower, I believe. So 47 has a proposed ridge height on what was approved in October of 34.8.
Okay.
And this building is at 35.6.
All right, so it's only about a foot or maybe a foot and a half higher than the other house that's
Correct.
Yeah.
directly abuts it.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Riley, somewhere in the narrative I read there were two driveways, but I only see one driveway on the site plan. Am I looking at something, not picking up something? Or maybe two driveways is,
Perhaps they're referring to the driveway from 47.
oh, okay, is that what it was? Okay.
Correct, because it's on the property for 53, but it serves
Right,
47.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Can you have a car, it looks like in the, I'm not saying but the rendering we have here on the floor plan, one of the plans, has a rendering of a car. Can you have a car stored in this floodplain area that's supposed to be open to?
Yeah, in fact, that's the typical use when you have to elevate a building and there's people propose putting motor vehicles in there, presumably they would move them before a storm,
Okay, but
But-
it is allowed.
but it is allowed, as Jay can confirm.
Okay. It is, okay. All right. Is it Aaron? I'm sorry, was it
Yes.
Aaron? I have a quick question for you. So it does look like you're expanding the house, the 53, closer to the water, and you're expanding the deck closer to the water than what's there today. Am I looking at that?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's expanding by 4 feet. So that's, and down there, no matter what direction you're going in, you're going to get closer to the water, so.
Randy?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, good afternoon, Mr. Riley, and I'm sorry I forget,
Aaron?
Aaron? Okay.
Aaron Levin.
Aaron Levin. So first of all, I don't think you're going to answer yes to this question, but I do want to bring to your attention, we've been furnished with a set of goals and objectives from the Select Board to keep in mind.
Okay.
All the different groups, the conservation, HBDC, all the committees and commissions have been advised of what to keep in mind when we go through our deliberations.
It's unfortunate they haven't sent that around to the applicants so that we could keep it in mind.
No, and that's why I'm bringing it to your attention, out of fairness. You know I'm a very fair person. So I wanted to bring to your attention the things that we need to keep in mind now because we're being watched. Environmental conservation, coastal resiliency, and natural resources, we are tasked now. We were always tasked, with the rules of the, the bylaw, and of course, the purpose and intent of the bylaw. But we are, specifically we're holding now to the objectives, and part of the objectives are to be mindful of the conservatory district. And so your property today is 100% in the conservancy district, correct?
That's right, the entire neighborhood is 100%
No, and I know,
in the Conservancy District.
I agree. I mean, I know that. So I just wanted you to be mindful that, I am guided by that. So I always was to an extent, but now it's really been in the forefront of my mind for the past few days. So also, you've talked before about lateral expansion in the
Yes.
flood zone. And our bylaw permits some lateral expansion. What is your understanding of why it permits lateral expansion?
Well, previously, and we're talking about a pretty long time ago at this point, although we would come in and request lateral expansion, it was not explicitly mentioned in the bylaw. So during the regime of Deanna Roofer, changes were made to the bylaw, most of which, by the way, were terrible. But she did make provision for lateral expansion. And so I think in terms of the concerns expressed by the Select Board, I think the important thing to keep in mind is the fact that we're bringing the building into compliance with FEMA. This design, actually the earlier design, has been approved by the Conservation Commission also. So we think that we're honoring the concerns of the Select Board. We didn't know about them, but we're honoring them.
Where I was going with that, just so you know, just to guide you a little bit in terms of my question to you, is they allow for, the bylaw allows for an amount of lateral expansion because they know that people own properties that are quite valuable and they want you to take it out of the flood zone. And when you're going to go through all that effort and time, you might expand a little laterally, right?
Well, there's also the fact that because you can't put your mechanicals down in the basement where we usually put them,
Yep.
that there's going to be some portion of the living, what was normally the living area, that's going to be taken up with mechanicals.
Right.
And so I think that was also part of
It's
the,
kind of a need.
right.
Yeah, so how come on 47 Little Beach Road, you only expanded the lateral expansion 38 feet? And in this one, you want to expand it, if my math is
In
right.
38 square feet?
Yes, 38 square feet, if I have that right. Building coverage was 659, and now it's going to be 697. Does that sound right to you? It's on your paperwork.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's correct.
okay. So on this one, you are currently at 1379, and you want to go up to 1997. Do I have those numbers right?
Yes, you do.
Correct.
Okay.
There is
so-
an additional 40 square feet that belongs to the building at 47. That
Right.
is on the lot of
So
53.
even when you subtract that, you're still at about 600 square feet of a lateral expansion, right?
Correct.
And that's quite different from only 38 square feet at 47. Why do you need to do that?
Well, in the first place, when you say, why do you need to do that? Well,
Yeah,
we didn't need to do it.
right, good.
However, we elected to do it because the lot at 47, I think I have the area of it here. So
It's a smaller lot, is that what
Oh,
you're
it's-
doing with that?
it's a much smaller lot.
Yeah, but still.
And so,
Yeah.
and so the coverage is way over 15% on that lot. Okay, so naturally, we expanded to the extent we thought was reasonable on that lot because the lot is very small. So here we have a lot that's 32,600 square feet. And we felt that that this percentage of expansion, because we're still significantly less than 10% lot coverage, was a reasonable request.
Well, you have zero buildable upland, and you're entirely.
The
within-
entire neighborhood has zero buildable
I know, but I'm not
upland.
talking about the entire neighborhood, I'm talking about this property. I see things as they come.
Yeah, okay.
So the other thing too is that, I know you know this, but we are tasked also with looking at what's there now, not what you brought 2, 3 other times. And so in my mind, maybe it was somewhat instructive and for some people, helpful that you put up, this is what we came in last time, and this is what we have this time. But the law provides that we look at what's there today compared to what you want to do. So I find it somewhat confusing and a little disjointed, but I just want to let you know that.
Okay,
Okay?
well, I think historically, when we make a presentation that the board does not approve, and we come back with another presentation, we want to emphasize the extent to which we listen to the concerns of the board.
No, and I know that. I said it was somewhat instructive, but at the same time, just maybe for the benefit of the listeners and people that are concerned about the environment, we are tasked with looking at what's there today, which is a small cottage, compared to a big house that you want to put there. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, so I'd like to make a statement then regarding the concerns about the environment and the size of this building. So, the environmentally, this is a significant improvement because we're lifting the building out of the floodplain. And so one of the things that we talk about a lot is a storm surge. And so a storm surge is determined by many things, none of which have anything to do with man-made objects. And so in terms of environmentally, this lateral increase will have no measurable environmental impact on this property. The existing space we're covering is lawn, which is, aside from the fact that there's no structure there, doesn't contribute in any way to the environmental aspects of the property. In fact, there's less, because there's less stormwater going into the ground on a lawn than there is from a roof structure that has downspouts to dry wells, because you get 100% recharge Whereas if you have a lawn, you have evaporation, you have uptake in the plants. So we think that environmentally, there's no significant difference between the existing building and this building.
Can I respond to that, Mr. Chair? So I appreciate the botany lesson or, the ecological aspects. However, if that were all true, we wouldn't have a provision that said you can't build in the Conservancy District, or you have to stay a certain amount of feet away from it, and there's no buildable upland here. So it has to make a difference, or all the laws would be really, whacked.
I disagree.
Okay, well, you have a right to your opinion.
Okay, questions from Paul?
Let me see if I can clarify in my mind, on the gross floor area, what your handout indicates is that it's 3,297 square feet without the screened porch,
That's correct.
and it's 3,646, including the screened porch.
Right,
And that's the issue of whether it's within the building envelope,
right.
correct?
I just wanted to point out that there's another way of looking at the gross floor area, that's all.
I appreciate that. But you also then provide us with a comparison figures with a number of other houses all in this area. And if you take even if you use the number that you're using of 3297, you're in excess of all but one house, are you not?
Right, and I think, again, the one thing to keep in mind is that this lot is significantly larger than the other lots in this neighborhood. And most of the lots, like on Scallop Terrace, Clamshell Drive, and many of the lots on Little Beach Road are significantly less than 10,000 square feet in area.
But,
So if you-
but the lot size really doesn't affect the question of gross floor area, does it?
Well, no, it doesn't, but the reason that those other gross floor areas aren't any larger is because the lots are too small. And so, we have a moderately sized house on a larger lot. And we think that the proposed size of the structure relative to the size of the lot is reasonable.
But we're looking at it in connection with the compatibility of the size of the proposed structure with neighboring properties.
Right.
In terms of the compatibility of size of the proposed structure, once again, the lot size doesn't make any difference, but if you look at the
Well,
gross floor area, you're at the top.
Well, I would suggest that the one reason why it does is that if you look at, for instance, Scallop Terrace, the houses are all cheek by jowl with virtually no room between them. And so so they're like clustered together. So they're like a mass of buildings. Whereas our home is on a wide open lot. And I think that gross floor area notwithstanding, we're not significantly larger than many of the homes. And I think that the fact that we're slightly larger than some of the other buildings is not a reason to deny the application. The question for you is it substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure? That's the base question. And I think that so we're somewhat larger, which we have acknowledged, but is it substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood? So you look at the neighborhood, you've got compact streets over Scallop Terrace, Clamshell, Seagull, Lobster Lane, and then you look at 53 Little Beach, which is on a 32,000 square foot lot all by itself. And I would suggest that when considering the proposed design on that lot with the way the other buildings were built, are we substantially more detrimental to that neighborhood than the existing structure? And I would suggest that you could find that it's not substantially more detrimental,
Okay.
even if it's somewhat bigger.
All right, let me look at the criteria with respect to expansion in the conservation zone, the category 12 of your issues to address. You have the lateral expansion as being 578 square feet. What's the purpose of that 578 square feet?
It provides
What
additional
does that
living area.
consist of?
I'm sorry, what?
What does it consist of in terms of the building?
Some of it's the screen porch, which the existing house does not have.
The screened porch is a good portion of it? Okay. As I recall, when the issue of this lateral expansion criteria was discussed at town meeting and proposed, the issue really was one of these areas are requiring compliance with FEMA, which in a large number of cases requires porches, not porches so much as stairs and access to the building that was not required before that. So that it would be necessary to add on some front steps, something of that nature to get access in. It doesn't seem to contemplate, or did not at that time contemplate 578 square feet of additional building coverage
It also,
in this zone.
it also did not prohibit it.
No, it left it up to us to make a decision as to whether that was appropriate or not.
That's correct.
Okay. I don't see, last time when you were in, along with, I guess it's 46, which is right next door, we had some photographic presentations showing the perspective of the building from the road, out by Outermost Harbor and so forth. I don't see those same kind of projections provided this time around. Is there any significant difference between what we saw the last time and this time, other than the connector between the two buildings?
Well, the building is significantly smaller.
How is it smaller? I see the,
The overall width of the building has been reduced by over 14 feet.
so we have 14 feet there. The height is the same?
The height's the same.
Same as October.
Okay, I have no other questions. Ed?
Bill, I guess my question for you is, all of these houses in this area have zero buildable upland.
Right.
So, in your opinion, why does size of the lot come into play if there's zero buildable upland for all of them?
As Randy pointed out, there's considerable expense to elevating a building. And so the fact that the applicant is spending a significant amount of money to bring the building into compliance with FEMA, which is designed to protect all the buildings around it, that one justification for allowing the expansion of the building is to let people have what I would call modern living area. So, and if you look at this structure, none of the rooms are enormous. There's no, it's, by the standard of the things we look at here, this is an extremely modest structure. And they are expanding it, but, the cost of building a building like this, as you know, as a builder, is significantly more per square foot than if they just took the existing structure and increased some of the living area, so I think that it's fair for somebody who's spending this amount of money to bring the building into compliance with FEMA, which is, the principal reason for the elevation, to improve what I would say the quality of life within that structure. In its beginning, up until now, this has been basically a summer cottage. And so, given the tax value of the property, the cost of elevating the building, and what modern life now brings, the applicant would like to be able to use the building on a year-round basis. And so, when you start making those kind of changes, you want to have, when you're going to live there year-round, you want to have additional room, because it's not just summertime and the warm weather. You need living space in the wintertime as well. So I would say would be justification for enlarging the building.
And the existing building is slab on grade, correct? There's no
Correct.
basement in the existing building, so it's not, you're not trying to replace any space
No.
there. And currently, the utilities therefore are also already in the living space per se.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Dave?
I don't have any questions at the moment, Dave. If something comes up, I'll let you know. Thanks.
Lee?
I don't have any questions either.
Okay. Quite a bit of time has gone by since, I'm sorry, quite a bit of time has gone by. Are there any additional questions from those that might have been generated by what Paul and Randy brought up?
I actually have one question, Mr. Riley, about the floor plan, and I know that we're not a design board, but I did notice that on the first floor, it's both a living room that's being shown and a family room. And the family room looks pretty walled off. Is there a reason for that kind of redundancy of space?
I'll let Erin answer that
Okay.
question.
The family room's a TV room den, so it's walled off so that there's privacy for sound. And then the living room is the living room adjacent to the dining and kitchen.
Okay. Thank you.
So I would move to close the public hearing and move into deliberations.
I'll second the motion and vote yes.
Need a vote, Dave?
Dave Veach votes yes.
Randy?
Yes.
Ginny, yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, deliberations. Let's start with Paul. I'll start with Paul.
Well, I appreciate that there have been some changes made with respect to the proposals. We've had a number of proposals at this property. I still think that we have a problem with respect to the question of lateral expansion and with respect to the overall size of the building. It's just larger and expanded larger than I think is required and necessary under these circumstances. So I think my opinion is still that I would not approve this application.
Ed?
I'm not voting. If I was voting, I feel it's a somewhat of a modest increase. I feel that the environmental benefits, once the project is approved, having it raised, having a new septic system there, that's one of my big concerns about the whole little beach area is when that area floods and you have all these septic systems that are old and now covered in water, what that impact actually is to the area. So having a new septic system that reduces nitrogen in the area, having the flood vents, having it raised, and the improvements conservation is looking for, I think sort of mitigates the lateral expansion to some extent. So, and I also think the applicant has made a real effort to design a house that is fitting for the area. So I would probably vote in the affirmative if I was voting.
Dave Each.
Yeah, I'll pick up on what Ed said, which I agree with. And I, in preparation for the meeting just a little while ago, and I have in front of me, thanks to the magic of Google, I'm looking actually at an August 2014 view of this part of the neighborhood, Little Beach Road. And over the course of that time, there have been a number of structures that have changed. And when I look at those as they were in 2014 and as they are now, all of them, I think almost all of them had approval from us in order to expand, which they did, many of them did. And I think that the applicants have made a number of efforts in regards to the concerns that we raised. And I think we can find any number of ways to look at this positively or negatively. I appreciate that they've done the work they've done since the last presentation, and I think it looks considerably better in that location. And I really don't think that it looks, and the question of the size of the lot, I mean, none of it has buildable upland, agreed. But I think that the lot size can have some impact in the overall view of the neighborhood with respect to the massing of the buildings and their proximity to each other. And in this case, this building's out there quite a bit further away from many of the other buildings. So I think that gives room for it to be enlarged somewhat without presenting a jarring visual impact on the neighborhood. And so when I look at some of the things, and I have to say, I look back at some of the approvals that we've made, and when I look at what's there now versus what was there in 2014, there are a few of them that I would have to say I regret, because there's been some significant changes in some of those buildings. But in fairness to these applicants, I don't think this is the place to close the barn door. So I cannot find that this is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. So I will approve it. Thanks.
Lee.
Well, I as well appreciate a lot of the things that the applicants have done. The reduction in the building coverage, the reduction of the gross floor area. I'm okay with the front road setback because it is getting further away from the water. We have been involved in this neighborhood quite a bit. We've approved many. And I think what comes into play for me is criteria number 5. And although the height is still close to its max, which does contribute to the mass, and that's a little bit of a problem for me, the mass, the height. But I think the traditional design helps a lot with the mass. I think it's going to blend in very well with the rest of, with the surroundings. And with respect to the buildable upland, it's 0. I understand that. But I agree with Mr. Veach in that it's the space that we're dealing with. When you look at it, the fact that it's got the space around it, it is far away from the rest of the homes that we have approved, say on Scallop or the other roads. So, I mean, I am not voting today either, but I could support this. I think the concessions that the applicants have made have been enough, and I think the space is what does it for me in terms of the lot size and that house fitting into the neighborhood. I don't think it's going to be substantially more detrimental. And as far as the lateral expansion goes, I mean, would I love to see this house one story? Yes. But in order to make a one-story house with no livable basement space, it would have to be expanded laterally quite a bit. So the fact that it's going up is that, you know, give and take situation. So, I mean, I could support this.
Steve?
Well, I guess I was concerned with criteria number 5 as well, and that's why I asked the question that I did, is how this was going to look compared to the house that was immediately adjacent to it. And it doesn't sound like it's going to be that much taller or higher. As far as the size of the lot, that's sort of immaterial to me because it's 0. It doesn't matter how big the lot is. But the, you know, and I don't even know if you can delineate where the ends of the lot is. People wouldn't know if the lot is this size because it's just beach and sand. So, you know, the fact that it's 32,000 square feet is really sort of immaterial to me because it's not supposed to have anything on it. The fact that what's there now, if there was a storm big enough, that would probably all wash out to sea. So the improvements that you're making and making this more FEMA compliant is probably helping the environment there in the conservation property. So, you know, maybe that sort of balances out the improvements that you're making, is probably balancing out the amount of expansion that you're having. You know, it is too bad that you can't use the basement really for much of anything, but I don't think this is, I guess I would support this project because of the improvements that they're making to the property. But you know, I struggle a little bit about the fact that there's not supposed to be anything there whatsoever because it is 0 buildable, but I guess they have a right to improve their property.
Ginny?
So I, too, acknowledge the effort that's been made to reduce from the previous 2 hearings. And I recognize that a reduction has been made, but I'm looking at the existing, and that's what, as Randy mentioned at the beginning, that's what we're really required to do. And I have a problem with a few numbers. 1, 0 square feet of buildable upland, 100% in the floodplain, and increasing the 3 sides, the east, the north, and the west, to the tune of 578 square feet in a floodplain. So I think that for, I don't really look at the criteria that some of my colleagues have stated with respect to how does it look at Little Beach, because so much has changed there, and they're all much taller, and they have expanded. But I don't know if it's true that they've expanded their footprint to that degree. So I am struggling with criteria 4, which is suitability of the site, including the impact on the natural environment. And it's not about impact on neighboring properties for me as much as it's the natural environment. I don't like the fact that the porch is coming even closer to the water. And again, I mentioned it's expanding on 3 sides. So that's criteria 4, and then criteria 12, the lateral expansion of floodplain. The current footprint building coverage is 1419. And so 578 square feet of additional building coverage with 0 upland in 100% floodplain is the definition, in my view, of lateral expansion in a floodplain.
Randy?
Yep, and in my view, it's the definition of substantially detrimental to the neighborhood, so that's where I'm going with that. I agree with everything Paul said, which I often do, not always, but often. I agree with Lee that they have a right to improve their property. I don't know if Lee said that or if Steve said it, but they do. They have a right to improve their property. But I was a little schooled by Paul explaining that when the town meeting voted to allow lateral expansion in cases like this, that it was really about steps and access to the building. So I also think it's too tall. And right now, when I look over there at those two cottages, I get a little bit of relief because, I mean, if Dave Veach says that he has some regret for that neighborhood, you know that there's regret to be had. And when I look around at those other buildings, I wasn't on the board then, and I'm glad I wasn't. And, you know, because I would not have been approved those buildings. And so I look over at these two little cottages, right, you know, almost, you know, right on the coast. And I get some relief in my mind. I think that's probably how it should be there. And so if you wanted to just make some moderate changes like you did with the other property next to it, I'd vote yes, but you don't. You're going too far, and so I don't support it. And I could name the criteria 1, and in your own words, there's a significant increase in the building coverage. That's your words, not mine. So that's criteria number 1. Number 4, of course, suitability of the site. It's not suitable for such an increase. And I like that concept about a really large lot, because the perception, it's true. You get the perception of, you know, there's not a lot of coverage here compared to how big that lot is. But that argument fails in the Conservancy District. And when people have houses there, you know, they have rights, but their rights are subject to the environmental concerns that we have here in Chatham. So I would not support it.
From my perspective, and I was the only one to vote no on the other cottage, I don't see anything that's changed my opinion there. Once again, I'll go back to this will rise up. I'm standing in the street. I'm at any one of those other cottages all over looking towards this project. And I'm looking at 37, 38 feet. That's way too much, way too much. And I know that's not the number that you use, that's 29.3, but again, I'm down in the street, you're up another 15, whatever feet. Any of the houses over there that are looking towards the ocean, oh, wow, look at that thing, look at that thing. You know, it's so prominent, it is so prominent, these two houses, that something has to happen to that height. And I just can't buy the idea that it's okay. Secondly, the lateral, as Paul and Randy and Ginny have made a point, I'm sorry, that's just too much. So at the end of the day, I'll certainly vote no and being consistent. And I think, Mr. Riley, you said something about this is the 3rd time here. This is more like the 6th time, I think, if we go back to previous owners. I mean, it's been quite a bit, but at any rate.
Can I make a comment, Mr. Chairman?
No, I'm not finished yet, number 1. And I don't see how there's an answer outside of what Lee brought up about keeping this one story. And
It's already 2 stories.
as far as I'm concerned, when I look at it, as far as the height goes. So I just can't see that it isn't severely, substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, and that's what it is. So, Mr. Riley, you've heard what we've had to say. Would you like to ask for something?
Can I have a minute to talk to my client?
Certainly. When you say a minute, do you mean 2 minutes? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? So. We might as well take a break. I think we'll take a 5-minute break at this time, folks. Bree, Mark, 5-minute break. Okay, everybody, we're back. So, Mr. Riley, you conferred with your clients and?
We'd like to, a continuance to April 9th to do a redesign. Now that, you know, I understand Mr. Nixon's objection to that, but I think that based on the comments we received at the last meeting, what we came back with today was kind of a fair interpretation of those comments. Now that the clients fully understand the concerns about lateral expansion, I think that we'll come back with a design that is satisfactory in that respect.
Thank you. Okay, so what Mr. Riley is referring to, I personally don't believe that we should give another continuance. I mean, enough's enough. It should be withdrawn and start over again. That's my own feeling. However, I can ask everybody what you think of that. Lee, I'll just go around. Lee, continuance, extension. Continuance or withdraw?
I'm okay with the continuance.
I'd say withdrawal, since we're getting a whole nother set of plans.
I appreciate that there's some momentum, and I believe that they're listening, and I think a continuance might just be helpful to us and to them to hear it while it's all fresh.
Randy, continuance, withdraw?
Withdraw.
Paul?
I would go with the continuance if requested.
Ed?
I agree.
Dave?
Continuance.
Okay, well, what I see, the vote, it would be 3 continuance, 2 no on the continuance, and so therefore it doesn't hit the supermajority. So I would ask you to ask for a withdrawal, please, Mr. Riley.
I thought you only need a supermajority in the application, that
No,
all other votes
every-
are simple majority.
Every vote that we take, with the exception of a 40B in the election of officers, is a supermajority vote, every one. So, do you want me to have an official vote, or can you read between the lines?
We would need a motion as well.
Right.
Are you asking to withdraw, or are you asking?
Well, I'm asking him what he wants to do.
Yeah, I didn't know what my motion should be.
Oh, no, okay. I can ask for a vote on the continuance, if that's what you'd like.
No,
All right, time's up, come on.
I think
We need to get the Jeopardy music.
yeah, I know it. Da-na-na-na. Well, then, what I'd ask for is a 2-week continuance to decide whether to take a vote or not. The idea is, you know, the idea is that for my client to decide whether to appeal or not, he needs more time than just a 2-minute conversation in the hall. And so whether we do a redesign, and we understand that if we're going to do a redesign, we're going to have to withdraw. But we don't want to give up our appeal rights today. So if you give me 2 weeks, we won't have another full hearing. We'll just come back and tell you we're going to withdraw, or we're going to ask for the vote.
Well, I don't like that idea at all, but I will call for a vote on the continuance. Randy, would you please make that motion?
Yeah, I move to, I'll do it in the affirmative. I move to allow a continuance until,
Our next regularly scheduled
Right.
meeting
oh, to that?
That's just 2 weeks, so my client can consider.
is not 2 weeks. That's February 12th.
Yeah,
What
fine.
we're going to vote on, and there's the continuance request from Mr. Riley to April, whatever it was.
Okay, so,
I'm not requesting a continuance to April. I'm requesting a continuance to February
February
Right.
12th.
12th.
I move to allow a continuance until February 12th.
All right, Paul?
I will second the motion to allow a vote.
And how do you vote?
I'll vote yes.
Dave?
Dave Veach votes yes.
Randy?
No.
Jenny?
I vote yes.
I vote no, so that doesn't pass. Would you like a motion made about a withdrawal?
Yes.
I move to allow a withdrawal of the case
I'll second the motion,
and vote.
and I'll vote yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
Yes for a withdrawal.
Ginny votes yes.
Yes, so that passes unanimously.
That withdrawal is without prejudice.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay, on to the next one. On to the next one, which would be 25-125. And I believe, Dave, you said you're going to recuse yourself on this, so Ed will be voting on this. Okay.
Application number 25-125, Cape Water Street Trust, care of Paul Muldoon, 693 Main Street, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 124 Main Street, also shown in the Town of Chatham's Assessors Map 17B, Block 1, Lot 48. The applicant proposes to change, alter, or expand a non-conforming dwelling in a non-conforming lot via the construction of a partial second-floor addition. The existing dwelling is non-conforming in that it is located 8 feet from Main Street and 9.8 feet from Water Street, where a 25-foot setback is required. The proposed addition will be non-conforming in that it will be located 8 feet from Main Street, where a 25-foot setback is required. The building coverage will remain 3,373 square feet, 29.8%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 2 dwellings where only 1 is allowed and contains 11,306 square feet of land area where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6 and Section 5B of the bylaw.
Mr. Chairman, I'm on the abutters list for this property, and thus I will be recusing on this matter.
Okay,
Thanks.
very good. Okay, Paul?
Paul Muldoon here from SV Design, representing our clients here, Susan and Bill Enlow, and their project at 124 Main Street. As Sarah described the property, we are in an R20 zone with a non-compliant 11,306 square feet of lot area, and we have multiple dwellings on the property. The existing home sits 8 feet from Main Street on the front elevation, and 9.8 feet to the southern property line. The second dwelling sits even closer at 0.6 and 0.8 and 0.9 off of property lines where 15 feet are required. The existing building coverage at 29.8 is far beyond the 15% required. And a little bit about the history of the main structure here. In 1997, the original historic structure was going under a substantial renovation and was deemed unsafe. And the building commissioner at the time, due to safety concerns, requested the demolition of it completely. So this house was built in about 1998, so it's only about 30 years old and did not require historic review for this particular project. The proposed project is a second floor addition over the existing roof area. So you can see here, we have an exposed gable end, we have a 1-story structure, and then the front gable end, and we're infilling that second floor space. For this, it's a modest, about 16 by 16 addition, 258 habitable square feet with no footprint expansion whatsoever. So the building coverage calculation at 29.8 remains at that number. The building height does not change, remains at 28'1". The proposed addition, the exterior materials will remain consistent, where we'll have painted clapboard siding on the front elevation, natural cedar on sides, painted white trim, and asphalt shingles. All items that can be found through the characteristics of the neighborhood and in Chatham. And the addition itself, the strategy for the addition, the gable end that we're seeing here that faces north, that ridgeline essentially extends over that first floor area, and then placing a shed dormer in that front elevation. This is a strategy that's used in a number of homes around the historic district, including ones directly across the street at 115 Main Street and the direct abutter to the north at 134 Main Street. This, along with the modest size of the addition, we propose that this structure is not significantly detrimental to the neighborhood. And with that, I'm happy to go into the criteria.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate you'd like to join the discussion. Don't see anyone, so I'll read the correspondence. First, we have a note from Judith Giorgio, Board of Health. She writes on January 20th, I have no concerns regarding the second floor addition of a large closet accessed through the bathroom at this project. Then we have a note from Robert Thurber, 144 Water Street, who writes on January 22nd, I've reviewed the application, have no issues, and recommend approval. And we have a note dated January 22nd. This is from Ronald Sy, 114 Main Street. I'm the owner of the abutting property, have received notice. I support this application and the proposed work. A note from Melinda Beach, 143 and 151 Water Street. On January 21st, hello, I'm writing to express my support. Now we have a note from Carolyn Phillips, 138 Water Street. January 21st, please be advised, I am in support of the addition. These are the kind of letters I like to read. On January 19th, we have a note from John Frazier. To whom it may concern, the Fraziers, that's John and Susan, fully endorse the proposal. They've been great neighbors. Thank you in advance. And that was 136 Main Street. Then we have Melinda Robinson again, I guess, 133 Water. And January 18th, please take care, oh. I don't know, I'm not too sure. That's something else, about clicking locks. I don't think clicking links helps us. Anyway, 133, she says, I'm in support of this application. All right, that's the end of that. Do we have anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak against this application, has a specific question? Seeing none, go to questions from the board, if anybody has one. Ed, do you have a question on this?
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
The paperwork and the presentation was so clear. I have no questions.
You always have a question. Okay, all right. Randy?
No questions.
Paul?
No questions.
Well, I don't have one either, so there you go. Okay. Randy?
So I move to close the public hearing and move into deliberations.
I'll second that motion and vote yes.
Okay, Ed, how do you vote on that?
Ed votes yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Okay, Randy?
Jeannie, yes.
Yes, yes. Okay, deliberations, Lee? I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes. I have no concerns with this project. I think it's a great use of a dormer and will look fantastic while it gives them more space.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I was going to ask about the CHC or the Old Village Association, but you explained that, so I think it's a good project.
Jenny?
Yeah, I do too. I think the excessive building coverage was off-putting at first, but when you realize that what was already there, and I think it's an improvement to the property, I would approve it.
Randy?
Yeah, I agree with Jenny. It meets the criteria, and it won't be substantially detrimental to the neighborhood.
Paul?
Certainly not substantially more detrimental to
Ed?
I agree as well.
And I agree.
So how about conditions? Do you need the summertime conditions for this, sir?
It will most likely be a fall start for construction.
So no conditions?
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Unless anybody, yeah, no,
Construction vehicles will remain on the property, though?
Yes.
Okay, so I move to accept the application as presented, provided that all construction vehicles are on the property or on neighbor's property with their consent.
Paul?
I'll second that motion and vote yes.
Ed votes yes.
Yes.
Jeannie votes yes.
And I vote yes. That's a unanimous vote. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Let's see. 25-127, please, Sarah, 112 Inlet Road.
Application number 25-127, Robert and Mary Bainbridge, care of William G. Litchfield Esquire, 330 Orleans Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owners of property located at 112 Inlet Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 14B, Block 23, Lot C13. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the demolition of the existing garage, reconfiguration of a deck, and the construction of additions. The applicant seeks to modify the special permit number 24-154 granted on February 27, 2025, which allowed for the demolition of the garage, reconfiguration of the deck, and construction of additions. They seek to modify the special permit for an alternate design and decrease in building coverage. The approved building coverage was 3,328 square feet, 9.9%, and the proposed building coverage is 3,252 square feet, 9.7%, where 10% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 33,900 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Sections 6 and 14, and Sections 5B and 8D2B of the Protective Bylaw.
Mr. Litchfield.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Bill Litchfield here on behalf of Bob and Mary Bainbridge, who unfortunately could not be with us today in person, but with me remotely is Mike Tartamella of Patrick Hearn Architects, a firm with which I know you're all familiar. Bob and Mary Bainbridge have a long history in Chatham and have owned this house for approximately 20 years. We were, as Sarah indicated in the hearing notice before you a year ago, and received a special permit to make some changes to the house, including some dormers, increased coverage, elimination of the garage, relocation of the shed. But after further consideration and after lengthy discussions with their architect, Mike, and the crew from Patrick Hearn, and their builder, Doug Whitler, they've decided to go in a somewhat different direction. And we're here now, thus seeking modification of the prior approval. What's proposed today actually decreases coverage from what was approved last year, and also construction of a conforming addition on the westerly side of the house. So while the changes being sought comply with current zoning requirements, the lot, while large, is non-conforming, which is why we're here. So if I could, Mr. Chairman, I'd like Mike to speak to the details of what's proposed, then I'll go into the criteria.
Certainly.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Mike Tartamella from Patrick Ahern Architect. As you heard, we're coming back for a modification to a previously approved design. The nonconformities of this structure were not being intensified, and the additions that are proposed before you today are all conforming additions. The reason for the redesign is that the clients decided to go back and revisit a little bit of the layout and accessibility based on their age and based on their family makeup, and we're looking to kind of create a little bit more of a lateral expansion along the property versus vertical. So what we've looked to do here is add the piece that you see on your left in the architectural vocabulary that it was once a carriage house that got attached over time. This will preserve the bulk of the main house and the layout and things that the homeowners have come to enjoy and also become accustomed to living in, and allow us to expand space in a little bit more of a reasonable and accessible direction for them.
Thank you, Mike. And Mike will obviously be here to answer any questions you might have on the design. But I'll go into the criteria as to adequacy of site, including building coverage and setbacks. We have a mid-sized lot for the neighborhood, which is certainly adequate for the existing home. We meet the street and coastal conservancy district setbacks, and we're a little bit too close to the northeasterly lot line, but we're not doing anything on that side of the house. I think you can find the site is adequate for conforming additions at the south and westerly sides, and the shed, and elimination of the garage and so forth, all of which meet setback requirements and are completely compliant as to coverage. As to compatibility of size, on the third sheet of the handout, there's a comparison. We have a fairly typical lot and house, both of which are relatively modest and compatible for the neighborhood. If you approve the special permit, it will remain compatible. You will note that we will remain smaller than several adjacent houses, which are themselves on smaller lots. So this is not a truly large house by neighborhood standards. And again, we're seeking a coverage at 9.7% rather than 9.9%, which was previously approved, although of course the comparisons to what's there now and what is proposed meets all dimensional requirements. As to the extent of increase in nonconformity, there is none. This is a completely conforming proposal. As to suitability of site, the site has been developed for residential use since the house was built in 1970. And while we are adjacent to the Coastal Conservancy District, the Conservation Commission has reviewed the proposed changes and issued a negative determination, which is a good thing. That means they're okay with it. As to scale sighting, mass views, and vistas, what's there now has been there again for 50 years. It's without impact on views and vistas. And in fact, the neighbor to the rear has a view easement over to the far left corner of the lot, but otherwise there's no change in views and vistas. And what we're proposing, we think you can find to be an appropriate Patrick Ahern design. The coverage goes down from that previously approved. The southerly or street facade, I think, is more balanced with a carriage house look on the left. There will still be dormers added to the main structure, but and it will also preserve the neighbor's views because of where it's being constructed. As to compatibility of use, there's no change there. It'll be a family residential use. We have town water. We are now connected to town sewer, which allows for an additional bedroom. Inlet Road is not exactly a high-traffic area, so the other criteria are not at issue. The question, as you know, is whether the addition of the cover above the existing porch and the dormers, along with the construction of the conforming addition on the westerly side, which is completely compliant as to zoning, and without any change in setbacks or resulting increase in nonconformities, whether that is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing nonconforming house on a marginally nonconforming lot, and I think that you can find that it's not. The modifications and the additions proposed here are in complete compliance with the bylaw. The house, I think, ultimately will be more in keeping with the surroundings. The changes make it less of sort of a ranch style and much more of a New England traditional house. The team that they've worked with, Patrick Ahern and Doug Wetler, to design something I think is appropriate. And I think you can find that the changes do not constitute a substantial detriment or even really any detriment at all. So given the criteria and the plans in this somewhat isolated neighborhood of larger homes, I think that you can find that modifying the prior special permit to approve these conforming additions and modifications which meet all zoning requirements is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood and warrants the grant of a special permit. Mike and I would both be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams who would like to speak in favor of this application? Don't see anyone. I'll read the correspondence. First is from Judith Giorgio, health agent. On 121, reviewed the proposed plans for the addition. The dwelling was originally approved for 5 bedrooms. At the time the septic system was installed, the property has been ordered to connect to the municipal sewer, and an application has been filed for an existing 5-bedroom dwelling. The proposed plan has 7 bedrooms plus a study office. The property will not be allowed to have more than 6 bedrooms in accordance with the water and sewer regulation. The approval and completion of the sewer connection is required as part of this project. And then we have a note from the Conservation Commission on January 5th. The applicant submitted a request for determination. Project was heard. The project was issued a -2 determination on October 23rd, 2024, as the project did not need to be conditioned to meet the performance standards. And that's the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams who wishes to speak either against or has a specific question? If so, please indicate you'd like to enter the conversation. I see no one, so we'll go to questions from the board. We'll start with Ginny.
Mr. Litchfield, this is just for my learning here. The wall that is not part of what's here, but that they've added, it looks like it goes all the way to the property line. That's allowed? Just curious about structures.
Well, the answer is yes, it would be allowed, and I want to pull out the site plan to make sure we're talking
Okay.
about the same wall. I'm talking about in the rear?
Yeah, in the rear, the wall to the rear, yeah. I mean, it's a fantastic
Yeah, it's a
wall.
retaining wall. Inward-facing walls, or walls can't be more, outward-facing walls can't be more than 3 feet, but this is further back from the property line. It's 28 feet, give or take, from the property line, behind the shed, and I'm just looking, I've got a scale in my briefcase, but it's maybe 8 or 10 feet from the closest point, but it is allowed. It is compliant with zoning.
Oh, okay, I was looking at the top northern corner. No, it was just a curiosity. I just hadn't ever really noticed something like that before. Another question, there's a comment in your criteria about improving the views. Was that required because of the view easement?
No,
okay.
a neighbor up above has a view easement from their perspective to the right, from our perspective on the westerly side. Going up a little bit is going to improve the homeowner's views of Mitchell River, but that's not a major factor.
Okay, thank you.
Randy?
I don't have any questions.
Paul?
No questions.
Ed?
No questions.
Dave?
No questions.
Lee?
No questions.
Steve?
Very simple question, I think. I see that I don't think there's any changes being made to the existing ridge of the house.
I think Mike can confirm that.
No,
but
there
I
aren't.
believe-
The existing ridge remains where it is.
Right, but I see that the height actually went up by about 6 inches. Is that strictly a topography issue?
Yeah.
It's due to,
and
it's due to how,
I'm sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
sorry.
Mike.
It's due to how building height's calculated. This is quite a sloping lot with a lot of topography, so with the adjustment to that, that's based on the addition and where you take the points from around the existing,
So
the
there's no
proposed
changes
footprint.
being made to the physical
No change
ridge of
to
the
the
house?
ridge.
Okay.
No.
All right, thank you.
Randy?
Oh, I move to close public hearing and move into deliberations.
I'll second the motion and vote yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
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 Yes. We'll start with Ed.
It's certainly not going to be detrimental to the neighborhood, meets our criteria. I would have no objections.
Dave?
Yeah, I agree.
Lee?
I agree as well.
As do I.
I agree.
Randy?
Yeah, so it meets all the criteria. I just have one question, because does the date start today for your 2-year to get this done? Or did it start on February 27th of 2025?
As a modification, I would tend to think it would go from today. And Sarah agrees with me.
So the 2-year to commence the work, it's not to finish the project, to commence the work, actually starts from the date that the decision letter is stamped in at the town clerk's office. So even though it was approved, I can't see when this is stamped in because it's a little blurry, but it looks like a March date. So it would be from sometime next week, the 2 years would commence whenever it is officially stamped in at the town clerk's office.
So anything from 2025 doesn't count anymore, assuming that we allow this today?
Well, they would still have until March of '28 to do the previous project if this project didn't go forward.
Yeah, but, okay, maybe we all learned something. Okay, so as I said, it's not substantially detrimental, it meets the criteria, and I would vote yes.
Paul?
I agree with my colleagues.
Ed?
You got me already, I agree.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Randy?
Yep, so I noticed that no conditions were imposed on 24-154, so I assume that we are going to have no conditions today. So I would move to approve the project as presented.
I'll second the motion and vote yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
Yes.
Cheney votes yes.
And I vote yes, that's a unanimous vote. Thank
Thank
you,
you
Mr.
very much.
Litchfield.
Thank you.
So Sarah, 25-128, please.
Application number 25-128, Miller Baker Family Trust, care of William G. Litchfield Esquire, 330 Orleans Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owner of property located at 528 Training Field Road, also shown in the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 9K, Block 6, Lot 1. The applicant proposes to change, alter, or expand a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the construction of an addition. The existing dwelling is non-conforming and that it is located 11.5 feet from the road. The proposed addition will be non-conforming in that it will be located 11.6 feet from the road where a 40-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 3,168 square feet, 8.3%, and the proposed building coverage is 3,461 square feet, 9.1%, where 10% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 38,117 square feet, where 60,000 square feet is required in the R60 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw.
Mr. Litchfield.
Thank you. Good afternoon once again. Bill Litchfield here on behalf of David Miller and Ashley Baker, who, as trustees, owned a house at 528 Training Field Road. You may recall that you were out there 2 years ago, give or take, for approval to construct a separate studio building, which has been completed and I think came out very nicely. David and Ashley have decided that they would like to connect their existing house to the existing garage. We were out there Tuesday morning for the Historical Commission site visit when it was about, 15 or 18 degrees when we were standing around, and we had a perfect understanding of why they would like to make that connection. So what is proposed is a small, less than 300 square feet connection from the rear of the existing house to the existing garage. Not going to be a bedroom, it's not going to be anything like that. It is, however, necessarily, because it's connecting two non-conforming structures, it itself will be non-conforming. It will be within the street sideline setback. But it is a small change, and I think a reasonable request. So we'll go into I will go into the criteria
And I would think you could
be very
quickly-
brief.
That's correct.
The site is adequate for the 300 square foot addition. The site coverage is well below limit. It's a modest change. There is no increase in nonconformity because we're an inch or two further away from the street street itself. And the site is suitable for the small addition. It's without impact on streetscapes or mass, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams who would like to speak in favor of this application? Don't see anyone. I'll read the correspondence. The Chatham Historical Commission found this home historically significant, and the proposed changes did not materially diminish its significance, so they did not impose a demo delay. That was a note from Christina Bassett on January 22nd. Then we have a note from Judith Giorgio, Board of Health. On the 20th of January, I have no concerns regarding this addition. And then we have a note from Jim Young at 1145 Orleans Road, January 15th. No objection to the proposed work. And lastly, we have a note from Herbert and Charlene Greenhow at 37 Power Lane. They write on January 12th, a letter of support for the proposed addition. And no concerns. Is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak against this or has a specific question? If so, please indicate you'd like to join the conversation. I don't see anyone, so Randy,
Okay, so
questions?
questions. I do not have any.
Paul?
No questions.
Ed?
No questions.
No questions.
No questions?
None.
No questions.
Okay.
So I move to close the public hearing and move into deliberations.
I'll second the motion and vote yes.
Beach votes yes.
Yes?
Jeannie votes yes.
I vote yes too. Deliberations, Dave?
What's not to like here? It's totally, certainly not substantially more detrimental in the neighborhood, not detrimental at all. And as Bill pointed out, I very much could see a good reason for it. It's traditional, actually, in many respects, to have the barn, garage connected to the house. So I will enthusiastically support it.
Lee?
I agree. Great project that makes a lot of sense.
Steve?
I think it's a good project. I'm surprised it wasn't done sooner, but,
Jenny?
Well, I'm supportive because it's a historic home, or at least the main part of it is. It's a large lot. There's already existing nonconformities. It makes complete sense. They're staying within building coverage. So it meets all of our criteria, and I think we should, I like to support historic homes that sometimes have some cramped spaces, and this is an opportunity for a little more space, connectivity to the garage, so I would support it.
Randy?
So I agree with my colleagues, and I did listen to the historic meeting, and they were very pleased with the idea of this, and that certainly helps. So I would support it.
Paul?
I agree with my colleagues.
Ed?
It does as well.
I also agree.
So I'm thinking that you don't need conditions, but I often think that, so.
I agree.
Okay, so I'll move to approve the application as submitted.
I'll second the motion and vote yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
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 Yes, unanimous vote. Thank you, Mr. Litchfield. And when you're done with that, Sarah, 26001, please.
Application number 26-001, Elizabeth Noor, care of William G. Litchfield Esquire, 330 Orleans Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owner of property located at 127 Shane Drive, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 15G, Block 76, Lot B26. The applicant seeks variances from the provisions of Section 8B12C and D of the bylaw to allow for the construction of a guest house to be occupied by a member of the immediate family without physical connection of the two structures and without requiring 20,000 square feet of additional buildable upland, and dimensional variances from the required abutter setback and 15% maximum building coverage allowed. The proposed southeasterly abutter setback for the guest house is 10.4 feet, where 25 feet is required. The proposed building coverage is 2,685 square feet, 16.4%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot contains 16,403 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. Dimensional variances are required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 10, and Section 8D2C of the protective bylaw.
Mr. Litchfield?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Bill Litchfield here on behalf of Betsy Noor, who is with us virtually. She's recovering from surgery, so she couldn't be here. And I also want to take note of a dedicated neighbor and good friend who has spent 2 hours sitting here to be in support. He will speak of that. You'll recall, I'm sure, that we were here in December for an ADU, accessory dwelling unit, for Betsy's mother, which you approved. But prior to and at that hearing, several members of this board suggested that the loss of a very large and old tree behind Betsy's house should, if at all possible, be prevented. We agree, and we agreed from the outset. We, however, were concerned about seeking a variance. And with the encouragement of some people in this room, we had our design team relocate the one-bedroom ADU, tucked back down in the corner where it wouldn't be in anyone's way. But we then realized that our bylaw was revised, when it was revised in 2019 to address ADUs, it is still not in compliance with state rules, and remarkably, and I think inconsistently with those state rules, it says that ADUs are not eligible for variances, for dimensional variances. I mean, there's a temptation to request that the board grant a variance from that provision, but we thought that might be a little bit much, so instead we came up with language in our bylaw. It actually has to do with guest houses, that would allow building this ADU pretty much where everyone thinks it should be, tucked into the rear corner of the lot, where no one can see it, and thereby preserving the tree. So we had to, in order to even to request a variance, we had to sort of shoehorn in this application as a request for a guest house, even though it is and will be, very frankly, an accessory dwelling unit for Betsy's mom. The guest house language, interestingly enough, doesn't have the restrictions that the ADU provision has, which is why this is the circuitous course we've had to follow. Variances are, as you know, to be granted sparingly, and they require all of three factors: that there be a finding that owing to circumstances relating to soil conditions, shape, or topography, especially affecting that land or structures, and not affecting generally the R40 zoning district, that a literal enforcement of the provisions of the bylaw would involve hardship, financial or otherwise, and most importantly, that the desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the purpose and intent of the bylaw. Some who've been on this board for any length of time will recall that long before Jay, previous zoning agent was of a mind that virtually any relief could be provided by a much more readily attainable special permit. That was the way we operated until the Dedrick case in 2014, and I think you may have seen it in the past, but on the last sheet of the handout I provided, it shows that in years gone by, there were more variances requested and allowed than, in fact, special permits. So historically, variance is not a dirty word. It's granted sparingly, but it is not by itself a bad thing, and there are cases where they are warranted. This is one. So I'll go into the criteria. First, owing to circumstances relating to soil condition, shape, or topography, or structures that aren't found throughout the zoning district. Well, the zoning district is R40, but the factors can be combined to meet the requirements. We have a wedge-shaped lot, which is much wider at the back. It is also significantly lower than the adjoining land to the east or to the south. Beyond that, the structure, because of where it is located, it blocks the view of the rear because there's a slope going up on the left-hand side of that site plan, which are circumstances not generally found in the R40 district. As to the structure, aside from its location, as is the case with a lot of houses built in the late 60s in this neighborhood, it has a significant porch, which increases the coverage. So that's another factor that is not found throughout the zoning district. The statute and our bylaw then goes on to say that you have to demonstrate that a literal enforcement of the bylaw would provide a degree of hardship. However, as you know, a far lesser showing of hardship is required for a dimensional variance. There's no one factor that determines it, rather it's a matter of discretion for this board. The hardship here has multiple aspects. Certainly the family circumstances are what warrant the ADU. The loss of the tree is something that could be regrettable, but more importantly, our bylaw may actually be in violation of the state mandate prohibiting requirements that ADUs be attached to or detached from the principal dwelling, which is in our bylaw. It ostensibly bars this board from granting dimensional relief, and it also has a cap on the number of units. So as such, a guest house is the only option that we could follow. And finally, that desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. The relief has no negatives for the neighborhood. The impacted neighbor is here to speak in support. An ADU for the petitioner's mother is certainly not detrimental to those qualities which distinguish Chatham as a desirable community, which the bylaw says is its purpose, including health, welfare, and quality of life, and provision of housing for persons of all income levels. The state requirements took effect a year ago, ADU requirements, but our bylaw has not been revised to reflect those rules, leaving the guest house variance route as the only course to pursue. Now, nothing you do is precedent. We all understand that. But I do want to make a couple of quick comments on comparable cases in regard to variances. We know that only 2 weeks ago, because of a flaw in our zoning bylaw and the fact that it doesn't tie into state statute, you granted a variance for a house down at Sears Point Lane. You did the right thing because it was the only way to accomplish what everyone agreed was a good idea, even if our bylaw is flawed. Now, that could be seen as a stretch, but you made the entirely reasonable decision to grant a variance and to allow the project to go forward without further difficulty or delay, and you found correctly that it was without derogation of the purpose and intent of the bylaw. There was no detriment to the public good, and there will be none here either. Could that decision, or if you make it the way I would like you to, in this case, be overturned by a court? Possibly. And many challenged variances are rejected, but that's not the point. The point is that sometimes doing the right thing is important, particularly when it can be done in conjunction with the law. As for the need for housing of people of all income levels and circumstances, which is a stated goal of our bylaw, I couldn't begin to count the number of hours that you've spent on 240B proposals. Now, there are many, I won't say countless, but many aspects of our bylaw which are necessarily violated by those projects, and almost all of them would ordinarily require multiple variances. Here, we're only talking about a couple of 100 feet of coverage and a rear setback line in an innocuous location, but which will serve a goal which our bylaw and our townspeople generally support, which is ADUs. You've been here 2 hours already, and you don't want me to go on at great length, so I'll try to bring this to a close. I appreciate the cases that the law says that even when the criteria are fully met, there's no right to a variance, and we understand that. We understand that, and Betsy's mother can, by virtue of the special permit granted in December, have an ADU, but this is a much better location rather than right where that tree is. It meets the family's needs, it preserves the tree, and it makes sense. There is essentially no reason not to allow the ADU for Betsy's mom to be built in the rear corner of the lot. No good purpose, public or otherwise, is served by strict enforcement of the rule in this case, even if we have to use the guest house provision until our bylaw is revised to reflect the current requirements of the law for ADUs. So this variance can be granted without substantial derogation of the purpose and intent of the bylaw, which even in its flawed ADU section speaks to broadening the range of housing opportunities for households of all ages, with particular attention to the needs of our older population. I hope you'll grant the variance, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here today on Microsoft Teams who would like to speak in favor of this appeal? Gentleman in the back.
I'm John Huther, 98 Cod Lane, and the southerly neighbor. I have no issues at all. I think it's a wonderful thing that Betsy is going to get her mother closer and be able to take care of a family member. So I hope you all vote in favor of this.
Thank you. Gentleman in the back.
Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. I support this project because I support good neighbors, and it's really a beautiful little neighborhood. I've been through it thousands of times on my bicycle and walking, to the A's field. And I think, this is a good compromise to kind of keep this, neighborhood smaller, and still get some of the needs, what they need. But I do have some questions, so.
Why don't you ask them now?
I can go. Oh, I'm confused. Is it a guest house, or is it an ADU, or is it a guest house ADU, and what rules apply to each, and that type of thing?
You're no more confused than anyone who deals with the town of Chatham zoning bylaw. The ADU provision of the bylaw took a lot of effort to get enacted, and there was significant opposition to it. There were some provisions put into the ADU provision of our bylaw which are frankly nonsensical. And given what has gone on with housing in the 7 or 8 years since that was drafted and the cost of housing, I rather think it wouldn't be enacted the same way. And I presume, without knowing, that the planning board is considering revisions to the ADU bylaw in May, if not thereafter. Short version is that this is an uncapitalized ADU, which, if approved, is being approved under the language in the bylaw which requires it to be considered as a guest house. Is that a fair summary, Sarah?
That is a very fair summary.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I mean, I'm still confused, but, so I am. So before I asked, state law, you can't do summer rentals on like the ADUs. Would you be able to do summer rentals on, or short-term rentals with, it's a guest house, right? It's not an ADU guest house?
The purpose, well, guest houses can be occupied by family members or occupants of the principal dwelling or their family, or it can be rented. There is no intent whatsoever to rent this. It is for Betsy's mom. It's just that unfortunately we had to go under the guest spouse provision. Interestingly, state law differs, or the regulations that came down in January of 2025 are much less restrictive on ADUs than the town's bylaw, and that the state regulations prohibit local bylaws from doing some of the things which ours ostensibly does. I think we're going to fix our bylaw, but right now we had to apply for this as a guest house. Not because we wanted to, just because our ADU provision didn't allow us to do otherwise. And I'm sure you're still confused. Because I am as well.
I don't think there's anything you'll be able to do or say to make me unconfused about a lot of things, but all right, thank you.
Okay, all right. So I'll read the correspondence. I don't think there's anybody else who wants to speak in favor. And that is Judith Giorgio, health agent, on 121. I've reviewed the plan to add a one-bedroom ADU at this property. The property is an existing three-bedroom dwelling. A fourth bedroom is not allowed under the Board of Health nitrogen loading regulation. Existing and proposed floor plans are needed to confirm the bedroom numbers.
If I could just respond
Yes,
very
please.
briefly, we are eliminating one of the bedrooms in the main house. The house will have 2 bedrooms, so there'll be one at the ADU.
So you end up with 3. Okay, and that satisfies that. Okay, very good. Okay. Is there, enough of that, is there anyone who wishes to speak against this or has another question? Anybody in Microsoft Teams? Don't see anybody? Okay. Randy,
So,
why don't you ask, okay, I should say, does anybody have any questions? You do? Yeah. Well, go ahead.
You may have addressed this originally in the first proposal, but why not an addition to the house instead of an ADU or a guest house?
We went over that a number of times, and Betsy is here, and I don't know whether she would like to respond, and I think Ryder and Wilcox, who designed this, is gone. There were reasons, Mr. DeBoer, and I can't tell you right now off the top of my head. We started this 9 months ago, and we've been through so many iterations, I can't tell you. Mr. Chairman, if I could ask Ms. Nor to speak?
Please do. Betsy, please join the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So, trust me, I've gone around in circles on this, but the main reason of not doing an addition is because the only place to put the addition, again, would be right over the tree. And so I think that my mother and I agreed that we would be better off, sorry, our dogs are going crazy, that it would be better for her to also have her own sort of separate space. But honestly, it's been about the tree.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
Well, okay, I understand, but I mean, you could have a separate entrance if you had an addition on the house, but I understand the tree, so.
Any other questions? Any members? Dave?
Yeah, I don't think this doesn't really directly bear on this because a lot of things have changed, but this certainly is one of those neighborhoods that was developed under a prior less restrictive zoning, and that 25, having to maintain that other 25-foot setback is something that would not have been the case were we still under the zoning it had been developed under. But the overlay of R40 in this neighborhood has restricted things further.
Yeah, all these lots, actually, we have one of the larger lots. I think it's 16,000 square feet, give or take, it's on there. Yeah, 16,403 square feet. The neighborhood was developed with 10,000 square foot lots. It was the old R10 zone.
Randy?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just as confused as Brian, but maybe even more confused now. I definitely am a big fan of keeping the tree. I always am. So I'm going to support it, but I'm wondering, in the event her mother doesn't live there anymore, for whatever reason, would it be reasonable for us to condition it that it wouldn't be used for short-term rentals for under 90 days? And why did I pick that number? Because if the owner, at any point in time, would like to allow, somebody that comes to work here for the summer, that might be like a 90-day gig. So I didn't want to foreclose that, but I'm just thinking that the neighbors might not realize that in the event her mother doesn't live there anymore, and that day will come, and there'll be a day where a different owner might have it, and this would be a great little spot for, an Airbnb, and I don't think the neighbors would like that. So I'm wondering, am I off on that, or what are your thoughts?
The state law, well, under the current bylaw, you could do that. I don't know whether that would be consistent with the regulations, the state regulations, which frown upon owner occupancy requirements for ADUs.
No, and I'm not trying to say at all,
Sarah can-
yeah, that it would be owner occupied.
So the ADU bylaw, state regulations, says that the town can do a no short-term rental. Since Attorney Litchfield is applying as a guest house, it doesn't fall under either the state ADU regulations, nor does it fall under the town's ADU regulations, which prohibit the grant of a variance for an ADU. So this, you would be looking at it simply as variances from the guest house provisions of our bylaw. Nothing to do with an ADU, totally separate provision.
But because we would have preferred to be here requesting an ADU, we would have, I presume, unless Ms. Knorr tells me otherwise, we would have no objection to a prohibition on short-term rental.
But short-term can mean a lot of things. It could mean, 30 days, a week, 3 months, 6 months. I would want to get more specific. And I know that Betsy is going to now say, I don't plan on doing that, and I understand that. However, this is a property that is going to be here after we're all gone. And so I would like to protect the neighborhood from, an Airbnb, I just want to call it that, or, a week in, a week out, because that makes the neighborhood very, noisy. And, I just want to be on the lookout about that. But she is asking to talk, so.
Jay may be able to help me, or Chantal or Sarah. The Board of Health regulation does define short-term rentals, And I think you could sort of reference that.
Their reference is for not less than 31 days is a short-term rental.
So that could be referenced, that there be a restriction that the property, because it's technically a guest house, not be rented for periods of less than 31 days to be consistent.
And I'm not speaking for anyone else, but that would be something that I would be looking for. And also, what was the other thing? What are you gonna do to change, magically wave a wand and get rid of one of your bedrooms in the house? You're gonna have to take down a portion of the wall?
That actually has been in the plan from the start, and we represented that when we were here in December, that
I
one
don't
of the
remember,
three, no, I wouldn't expect you to, but one of the 3 bedrooms in the house will be eliminated by a wall being removed. I forget what, Betsy, could you remind me of what we're doing? Which room is becoming which, the bedroom being eliminated?
Yeah, so the back right-hand there's 2 bedrooms on the right-hand side of the house. The front bedroom will remain, the back one will become a den. So basically that back corner by the deck. And so my builder already is, we've already discussed how we're gonna do that. We will close off the door, the bedroom door as it sits today, and put double doors or something, whatever I have to do to comply with making it a den.
The
And then
Board
I
of Health
just-
will require a casement, I think it's 5 foot wide for current construction, and 6 foot wide for new construction, so it'd have to be a 5 foot casement opening.
Yeah, and so the Board of Health is sort of in flux right now in many ways. In fact, part of the arguments have been, what is the definition of a bedroom? And I understand that they're working on that. So you'll get in under whatever today's definition of a bedroom is, I take it. That's changing, though.
It depends on when they file for their building permit.
Yeah, so just be aware of that. See
No,
all
we
the
are.
caveats that I'm pointing out?
Yep.
So, all right, that's it for me, for questions.
Can I this is Betsy, sorry, just one comment on the short-term rental. I'm completely in support of that. Obviously, I don't have intention of selling the house, but, I will not be here forever either. And the intent is to not do any short-term rentals going forward. So I'm completely in support of that.
All right, thank you, Betsy. Dave?
But relative to this, I'd just like to think this. So there isn't currently in the entire neighborhood any kind of prohibition on short-term rentals, is there?
There's no prohibition, there's
So
town regulation, but no
I don't see, I mean, I understand Randy's concerns, but I think to single out this structure, I don't see, I mean, so frequently we find unintended consequences of the creation of laws and things. So I'm leaning more in favor of why do it with this? I'd rather take our chances on what might happen down the road and let the Board of Health or whatever regulations get developed to deal with short-term rentals, rather than us do it on a piece-by-piece basis.
Anybody want to weigh in on that? Paul?
Well, I am reluctant to do it on a piece-by-piece basis, I guess. I'm not sure that I see the need for this in this particular situation. So I would say let's not try and do it on a piece-by-piece basis. Let's leave it out.
Randy?
Yeah, so the only thing I would say is, how many other ADUs or guest house, or whatever you want to call it, are in this neighborhood in the first place? Did anybody notice that? I think the answer is 0. So this is a much more attractive opportunity to rent it out short-term, and the whole nation is frowning on that, never mind this neighborhood.
Well, in my neighborhood, there are any number of pre-existing apartments and things, you walk around and I don't have a count, but there are a number of them that existed before zoning was ever imposed even. So, And I think having those things in town has value to us. And the problem with short-term rentals, I would grant, can be a serious problem. But I don't think that having, again, I don't think there's a reason to go after these on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, so, yes. Jenny.
Okay, well, I actually had a question after Mr. Phillips spoke as well about, just for clarification, this was before Randy spoke, and you've answered it since then, but I just want to restate this. So because you're requesting a variance under guest house rules, because of this unique scenario, it can be rented. That's where I think I heard you land. Okay.
Under our bylaw, it can be, although
Yeah.
there's absolutely no intent to do so, as you know.
Understood, that was my question, because I had the same thought that Randy did about, and because of this, I hear what Mr. Veach and Paul are saying about, piecemealing it, but this is a very unique request here, and I do feel as though I don't want to speak for other people, but I'll speak for myself. I'm supportive of this request. But I agree, and it sounds like the owner is also in agreement, and it doesn't impact the plans at all. But it does protect the neighborhood going forward. And I guess I'm saying that I had a similar concern that Randy had, and so I guess I don't agree that it couldn't be.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, just very briefly. Mr. Briggs has talked about this in the past in sort of a different context, because the guest house provision says that the board can waive the additional land requirement if it's to be occupied by a member of the immediate family. If the family moves away, Jay doesn't have the time or ability or inclination to go out and see who's living there. So, the applicant and I will be happy with whatever you do about the short-term rental issue, provided that we get the variances. That's up to the board as to how you want to do it.
Okay, so we'll get to that, when we get to voting on the application, we'll separately vote on conditions. Okay, very good. So let's go back in time here. Where were we? Has everybody spoken on this that wants to? Yeah, okay. All right, so we should have deliberations.
Wait,
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All votes yes.
Veach votes yes.
Yes.
Ginny votes yes.
Yes, okay. So, Randy, we need you to bring forth the application, and then we will.
We need to deliberate.
That's all we did. No, you want to deliberate? How long you want to deliberate? Okay. Okay, all right, Paul, deliberate.
I still maintain my position. I don't think we should do this on a piecemeal basis, so I would move to approve the application as submitted if.
Well, we gotta deliberate.
If that were to be the situation, as opposed to placing conditions with respect to rental.
Ed, deliberating. What do you think of the whole deal? And then we get into the conditions.
I'm in support of the new location of the mom's house, I'll call it that. And as far as restrictions, I wouldn't be in favor of any restrictions. I don't feel we need to be the watchdog for something like this.
Dave?
Yeah, and sorry, it seemed like we started deliberations a little early, which got confusing.
We drifted in there.
Yeah, we
I mean, I got-
drifted in there, but I definitely find that, that these requests, the variance requests, meet the criteria in my judgment, and for very good reasons, and I know that maybe saving an old tree isn't one of the specific, but I think it falls under those criteria, and I very much support that. And as I've said before, I don't think, since we don't have restrictions on anywhere else in the neighborhood, to apply it to this building, I don't think it's the right thing. Thanks.
Lee?
I agree. I think Attorney Litchfield made a very good case for approving this variance. Not only that, but I think this is a question of common sense. It just makes more sense to have it back there. So I'm not voting, but I would be approving this.
Steve?
Yeah, I guess I feel the same way. You know, it's serving a good purpose now. I was a little concerned about what happens to this when the current family isn't there anymore, and somebody else is gonna have to take over this problem. But the building could always be repurposed as something else, so, and it's helping the family today, so I think it's probably a good idea.
Jenny?
So I'm reminding myself that you already have a special permit to put mom's room or home there, and it would require eliminating the tree, which everyone, I think, at the table and everyone who knows about this project would agree is absolutely stunning, and it's worth exploring an alternative, which is why you're here. And I appreciate that, because you could have not been here and the tree'd be gone and the house, the room would be built, the extra space. But you are here under these really, kind of convoluted rules around the variance. And I do commend you, Mr. Litchfield, for being so creative in this, and Sarah and the support from the town. And as I mentioned, I'm in support of the variance because I think that you can meet the criteria the way that you've described it. So it can be a win-win from everyone, for everyone. But I do, as I mentioned, feel as though because we are using that guest house criteria in a unique way, that, and I know it's not the intention to rent that property, but I think looking forward is a prudent idea. So I would be in favor of that ADU or the rental restriction, but I'm in support of the project. And I also want to say, we're called the Zoning Board of Appeals for a reason, because we can apply, if it was just putting in this scenario into AI and spitting out a decision, it would be, does it or does it not meet the criteria? And so you have a body of contemporaries that are listening to the uniqueness of this, and that's, I think what's great about our board and why we have the opportunity to look into this very carefully and allow something like this. So I just want to, knit that all together.
Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the reason why I would think that you met I do think that you met the criteria for a variance is not because we're saving the tree. So I never want to be confused with somebody that finds a good reason that doesn't comport with the law. I won't do that. I'm not doing that today. I'm happy about the tree. However, I like the argument about the wedge-shaped lot. And we have, in the past, although this is, we bound by what we've done in the past, but we have looked at the lot shapes in the past, and that is 100% an argument that is on all fours with the law. So you got that one straight up. I forget the name of the case that says a less showing of hardship is required for a dimensional variance. Which case is that?
There are a number of them.
A number of them? Okay.
Marshallian.
Does it actually say a far less showing, or does it say a lesser showing? Because I think it's lesser showing, but that's my memory, and I think that's a portion of the law that we should hearken to, absolutely. So you have that one, and almost everyone really gets that. Is it in step with the intent and purpose of the bylaw? That's an easy one. It's almost like it's a free shot. And as a matter of fact, this one is in lockstep with the purpose and intent of the bylaw, especially these days. And so I believe that you've met the criteria for a variance, and that's why I would vote in favor. However, I also think that current thinking is to be very mindful of short-term rentals. And because this is a separate building, it's very attractive for that. And when someday Betsy doesn't live in Chatham anymore, and her mother doesn't live there anymore, somebody might buy up this house so that they can short-term rental the house and the other house behind it, and there goes the neighborhood, so to speak. And so I am stubbornly going to insist on that criteria, on that condition, for me to approve this even.
Okay, thank you. And Paul, you got kind of tripped up on when we were going from, into deliberations. Did you want to ask any more?
No.
No, okay. So what we want to do is, number one, I think, Randy, you need to present what the conditions would be, including what you feel should be in there. And then we will vote on the conditions first. Then we will vote on the variance for the guest house, depending on the conditions that we roll into it.
So I think I spoke too soon when I said in order for me to approve it, I'll think about that. So I don't want to be bound to that statement. But that's how important I do think it is. So I would vote to approve the application as presented we might want to consider the usual conditions for all construction activity and vehicles be contained on the site or neighboring property with the permission of the property owner. And I don't know what the board wants to do with June 30th and Labor Day construction. Do you want to opine on that?
The reason that Ms. Clark was her characteristically cooperative self in scheduling this for today is because we anticipated a June 30th deadline. If the board does not impose one, that's fine by us, but I don't know how the neighbors would feel about summertime construction. My understanding is that if this is approved today, it will be effective approximately February 20th, give or take. And my understanding is that we can get it built, the exterior, within 4 months. Is that still correct, Ms. Noor?
Yes, that is correct.
Yes, thank you.
And the other condition that I recommend is that it shouldn't be used for short-term rentals.
Okay, that would be our second vote on conditions. The first vote would be the usual ones, so.
Okay.
And what you said, as far as I'm concerned, you have presented that, okay? So Paul, on the first group of conditions?
I will second the motion and vote yes.
Okay,
Dave Veach votes yes.
Ginny votes yes.
I vote yes.
Yes, and I vote yes.
Okay, so then, an additional condition, Randy?
No short-term rentals, and we need to just make sure we put that in whatever documents we can, so it's into perpetuity.
Paul?
Why don't you define what you mean by short-term rental?
Yeah, well, whatever the town defines as short-term rental.
So, would you like the proposed condition to read that the guest house shall not be used as a short-term rental, as defined under Board of Health regulations?
Board of Health or other
Health
applicable
or-
in case the zoning bylaw ever.
Or other
reflects.
applicable regulations?
Yes, absolutely, that's what I would say.
I will second the motion and vote no.
Dave?
Dave Veach votes no.
I vote yes.
Ginny votes yes.
Well, it doesn't make any difference which way I vote, because 2 noes, it doesn't work. So therefore, again, because you need, okay, you need you need
Okay.
you needed,
I needed it. Okay,
you couldn't
that's fine.
have,
Yeah,
you couldn't have 2 noes,
yeah.
and
So,
that's what happened.
all right, so I guess I'll just let it go.
That's right, I think you have to, okay. So now we need to vote on the variance with the conditions as voted to begin this.
Okay, so I move that we vote on the variance as presented.
Which is to approve.
Yes.
Okay, I'll second the motion to approve the variance.
Uh,
And vote yes.
And Dave Veach votes yes.
I
Ginny?
vote yes.
Ginny votes yes.
And I vote yes, so that would be, and again, that's with the usual conditions.
Thank
that
you very,
were
very
voted in.
much. We appreciate your time.
Can move to adjourn?
Okay.
Paul?
Yes, would you please, Randy, do something about adjournment?
Yes, move to adjourn.
I'll second the motion and vote yes.
Veach votes yes.
Everybody gets a vote.
Ed votes yes.
Randy votes
Jeannie votes yes.
Steve votes yes.
Lee votes yes.
Taken up your process.
4:36 PM.
I noticed as you go out the door, so I separate.